We can't talk specifically about what happened in Woolwich, of course, but generally speaking, do you anticipate an impact on community relations?
Well, absolutely. You do, when these sorts of attacks happen, you do see communities coming together, in fact, and standing in unity and resilient against these sorts of attacks and really trying to push back against this really negative narrative that tries to demoralize societies. So what we saw here in America after the Boston bombings is that communities ended up coming together and standing in unity.
And yet it seems clear that so many young and disaffected Muslims are hearing only an extremist narrative, only that version of Islam.
Sure, you do find that there are young Muslims who do find these extremist narratives of Islam online or in person, but it's our duty as Muslims all around the world, as part of these societies, to work together and push back against these extremist narratives.
I absolutely understand you feel it's your duty, and many people will appreciate that, but how do you do it? Because at the moment, for many, many people, it's clearly not getting through.
Sure. Well, what we do here in America, and as part of our work here at the Muslim Public Affairs Council, we work to highlight the importance of being civically and politically engaged. Of course, it's acceptable, and a lot of people have grievances against the actions of governments and their policies, but it's important to remain engaged, both politically and civically, and being part of the society at large to address those grievances and have those positive outlets to work toward a better result and better change for the entire nation at large. Very
tricky though, isn't it, to reach people who perhaps only go to the most radical mosques and spend a lot of time on jihadi websites?
Sure, it is difficult, but we're seeing that this is not a problem that affects all of Islam or all of Muslims around the world. This is a minor problem, and they happen to have a big voice. And so it's our duty as mainstream Muslims and Muslims around the world, indeed, to push back against this narrative and work together with communities that we are living in to really show and highlight the positive effects of those who are working politically and civically with our neighbors.
Over here tonight already we've seen right-wing groups gathering at the scene of the crime, and some individual quite threatening behaviour against the odd mosque or two. I mean, it's very tricky to know how to deal with this, isn't it?
It is tricky, but what we see is that these acts inherently are trying to terrorize and demoralize societies. And when we see backlashes against communities that are perceived to be part of these individuals, that's equally disheartening because at the end of the day, unity and standing together and being resilient far outweighs dividing the nation and its people.
And of course, very often people who are not Muslims, the only version of Islam they hear is from extremists standing in the street, as that man did today.
Well, you do have a lot of mainstream institutions, organizations, Muslim leaders and scholars all around the world who talk out against and speak out against these acts and against this extremist narrative. And there are Muslims every day who are working toward this and putting out a moderate and mainstream version of Islam that pushes back against this ideology.
Hoda Elshishtawy, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much.